Good morning, good morning, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. So I can see, maybe we'll just unmute our videos just to, as we start off, we just say hi, then we can still mute them. Audrey, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yes, Nancy, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Who else do we have here? Daniel, are you there? Cosmas, Thomas.
Daniel, I'm there.
Yes, Daniel, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Right, karibu sana. Then we have Thomas. Thomas, are you there? Lillian. Can see we have Lillian, we have Peggy. Lillian and Peggy, I think they need to be, okay, I think they're being entered into the room.
Hi, James. I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning, Lillian. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Peggy. Peggy, are you there? Peggy. Maybe she's still trying to connect. Peggy is there. Peggy, how are you? Unmute your mic. It's muted.
Hi.
Peggy, your mic is muted.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to welcome you to this edition of Basic Skills Training or Basic Leadership Skills Training, which is Module 1. We'll be doing this for this Saturday and also next Saturday, where we'll culminate with the Module 2, still on basic leadership skills. But as we start, I think it will be important also to get to know what expectations do you have for this training? Because ideally, with any form of training, for it to make sense or for it to be significant, then there has to be some expectations that will have been met. It could be an acquisition of some skills. It could be just an aspect of you changing the perception of what leadership is. It could be with regard to the specific areas of leadership that you may want to be acquainted with. So I'll just take 5 minutes, then we do maybe a round of expectations. After that, then I'll take it over and proceed with the conversation. But I'll be expecting that we do a lot of also discussion so that we learn from each other. Remember, knowledge cannot be, or we can't say that somebody can monopolize knowledge. And in this case, based on our different background with regard to, in view of this topic, then it will be imperative that we share our experiences and just to get to know how do we interpret this aspect of leadership from where we sit, and as well as in the various positions that we hold. So we'll take, just to give maybe also some glimpse of how we'll handle this. After, I'll handle it in 2 sessions. Then we'll have a 10-minute break around 9:50. Around 9:50, we'll have a 10-minute break. Then we'll come for the second and final bit of this kind of discussion. Remember, this being a virtual training, it's not like a physical training where we can move into groups just to have a discussion, but this, I'll rely heavily on the conversation that we raise and also the discussion that you will advance as we go through this module 1 this Saturday morning. Right, so as I've mentioned, then let us, I'll take a round of expectations. Just mention what is your expectation from both this module and the next module, so that ideally by the end of the 2 modules, then we should be able to ascertain our acquisition of these objectives. Have we been able to, will you have met these objectives as anticipated from your end? So I'll not give any order, but I think it will be random. You just maybe just tell us what you just say. My name is, for example, I can say my name is James Wanyama, and my expectation is to understand more about the technical skills in leadership. Maybe something just on that line to enable us to kick off this conversation this morning. So welcome, and it's back to each one of us now to just share with us your expectations for this training. Over to you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I can see Peggy. Peggy, you
My
can
name
take
is
us,
Nancy.
off.
Hi, my name. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Peggy, and my expectations for this course is to learn more about leadership because I am making a career change and I am more inclined to the leadership part, and I hope I will achieve what I am expecting. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you. You are looking at career choice, inclined towards leadership. Thank you very much. Next.
My name is Nancy, and my expectation is to have this course boost my confidence and to enable me apply effective leadership skills and maybe tools that I can use in my daily activities.
Well said. Thank you, Nancy. You're looking at boosting your confidence as well as acquisition of skills and tools to up your skill or your development towards leadership. Thank you.
My name is Lillian. Joining in from Kampala. My expectations today is to understand how I can set goals for my team and how best we can achieve the same. And number two, I'm looking at as a leader, how do I motivate the employees that I'm working with? So those are two main expectations that I'm hoping to get some pointers by the end of the training.
Right. Thank you, Lillian, for your expectations, setting goals for the team, as well as how to lead employees.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Marilyn. And
yes, Marilyn.
My expectations are to learn using the tools that I'll gain today to at least get things moving with a very minimal conflict at my place of work.
Thank you, Marilyn. So you're looking at using the tools to minimize conflict as you lead at your workplace. Thank you, Marilyn. What else do we have there? Thomas, what is the expectation? I can see a hand from Thomas. Audrey?
My expectation is to acquire more skills, especially at my, because where I work alone in a big area, and to know where the gap is for me to be able to, like, what am I not doing right?
Okay. Thank you. I think that's the expectation from Audrey, to learn more skills and also just to know that she's better, she's able to improve on what she's currently doing with regards to leadership. I can see a chat from Daniel says, I expect to update my knowledge in leadership and see how best to apply in my work. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, Betty.
Morning.
Morning, Betty.
Sorry, my background is a little bit noisy. I'm expecting to run or to better my leadership skills and be able to manage different levels of staff, because I manage high and low levels staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are looking at how you synergize the two levels of organizational leadership.
Yes.
Thank you. Let me see who else is here. Grace, you can hear us. Please share with us your expectation. As well, we have Cosmas. Then Milka, Valerie. Any of those can share with us the expectations? Cosmas, Betty has said, Grace, Milka, if you are hearing us, please share with us your expectation. Who else? Then Valerie. All right. So maybe we can, we assume that they also share the same sentiments, or they're shy of speaking, and maybe at the end of this training, they'll be able to have boost their confidence to be able to speak to the rest of us. If they're having any connectivity issues. Well, so thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can now start. We can start our conversation, and I think from the introduction, or from the topic as it is, remember we are looking at basic leadership skills. That's module 1. Then next Saturday we'll have basic leadership skills module 2. Basic leadership skills module 2. And as we start this, Valerie, to all panelists as regards leadership, thank you, Valerie. Thank you for that. So as we start then, what I can say is we are all here because we have our expectations. And we normally have so many, what do you call them? Some statements that, or some things that drive us. And at times you hear people saying that if you don't know where you are going, any road can lead you to that kind of destination. But for each one of us today, I think we know what we want and we know what we expect from this training and any other professional development trainings. And it's my wish that we will have a lot of engagement so that we get to know, we get to understand, and we just get to delve more into this concept of leadership. Now, just to give an overview of what we are going to discuss today is, one, I'll take you through the introduction of the leadership skills. Then after that, I'll also take you through some career skills for leaders, or those career skills that a leader is expected to possess. Then after that, also we'll be looking at the people skills for a leader. And just to echo what some of us have said, that you want to make yourself well placed to deal with people, to manage people, and because usually human beings are the most difficult people to deal with, or they're very difficult to deal with, to ensure that you have a harmonious working relationship. Then at the close of today, or the session, then we'll be finalizing with the technical skills for a leader. So that gives a summary of the 4 areas that we'll be looking at: the introduction bit, then we look at the career skills, then we look at people skills for a leader, as well as the technical skills for a leader. Then after that, then in view of dealing with diversity of people, now communication and the 4 types of leadership styles, those will come in subsequent modules. And just to also to put some emphasis on this topic, you find that this topic, after the basic skills, then we have the advanced skills. So in the advanced leadership skills, that's where the conversation will be so deep with regards to the leadership styles, which leadership styles are applied in what situation, how do we navigate the challenges of leadership based on the external and internal controls that we may have and all that. But for the subsequent module, these modules that we have, they are basically just giving us a basis, giving us a grounding on what leadership entails. And of course, just to have a scope of the different skills that a leader is expected to have. Then Daniel also talks about, Valerie says, my expectations are that I'm able to upgrade my knowledge, review my current level, and forge ahead better and stronger as regards leadership. Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. Good, so I think we can, we'll start. And as we start, maybe I'll expect that we do just, what do you think, what is your thinking of what leadership is? What is leadership? Just to get a definition of what leadership is. There are things that maybe I don't have them on my slide, but we just need to juggle our mind. So what is leadership? If you are to define leadership, then how will you define this concept of leadership? Anybody to try that? Try and share with us what do you think is leadership?
Can I try?
Yes, please.
I think the ability to make people work towards achieving a certain goal as a group.
Ability to make people work
towards achieving a goal as a group.
Towards achieving a goal as a group. Thank you, Marilyn. Ability to make people work towards a common goal. So in that definition, I can see the word ability, then the other one is a group of people and to achieve a particular goal. Thank you, Marilyn. Anybody else? Anyone else to give it a try? Daniel says, ability to influence and motivate a group of people towards some common action. I think that one also. Thank you, Daniel. You've introduced the word influence, a group of people towards a common action. Thank you. So those are two definitions: ability to influence and motivate people towards some common action. And I think I agree with the two, that is Daniel and also Marilyn, in view of what they have brought us as the two components of leadership, or the two definitions of leadership, where we are looking at ability to influence people to work towards a common goal or objective, or a common purpose, or a common action. So assuming we are, let me give you an example of going to war. If you are going to war, usually we expect the commander to lead these people. And this commander is the one who should be strategic and being able to monitor what's happening ahead, so that he actually coordinates on when the troops are supposed to attack or when they should retreat. So that aspect of having somebody to give them the direction is what we are talking about, or what we are referring to as a leader. So essentially then, a leader should be somebody who is able to make people believe in them. That aspect of influencing and the ability to make sure that people subscribe or submit, or actually they tend to share the same ideology in achieving something. So that ideology could be, you want to take people to a particular destination. And I want us to have a very general view of this leadership. We're not just looking at leadership from the organizational perspective, but even you as a person, do you have that ability to make people believe in you, to make people think in commonality with your ideas, so that you achieve a common purpose? You may look at a spiritual leader. The spiritual leader ensures that the congregation are able to synonymously work towards a direction of maybe salvation. In that case, then this spiritual leader is leading them towards salvation being the common goal. If it's a team of soccer, the leader within the team of soccer is to ensure that this team excels, it wins the game. If it is in an organization, then we are looking at the leader steering the organization to greater heights. You're looking at the vision, you're looking at the strategic plan, you're looking at the objectives. If it's a department, then you're looking at the departmental goals. Are you leading people towards achievement of the departmental goals? Have you been able to synergize them? Have you been able to ensure that these people believe in the departmental goal? Have you actually made them to believe in the vision of the company? Do they believe in the job that they're doing? Do they believe in whatever actions you're doing as a team? So all that are some of the things that we need to ensure that we are able to put together to actually make the team to have that common action and effort. Cosma says, motivate a group of people towards achieving a common goal. Thank you. So you're looking at motivating them. I think that's another concept that comes in, to motivate. I've not heard anybody saying that you force people or you threaten them, you coerce them into a particular goal. I don't know why that angle has been evaded completely, but I think we'll be able to understand why we are not bringing in that that coercion when it comes to leadership. And ideally, maybe leadership, from that assumption, then leadership is not something that is forced. It is something that is out of volition. People just submit to you out of volition, and rather not out of any coercion or any force that we may want to use. Right. So thank you. I wish to now start with maybe to share my screen. Let me share my screen. So I believe you're able to see or to view my screen. So as I said, my name is James Wanyama. I'm a certified HR professional, and I'm a trainer in leadership and governance. And as I start off, then we've already mentioned our expectations, but there's a quote from one of the books I read. That book is called "Excuse Me, Your Dream is Calling." In that book, I'm driven by the statement which says that the first step towards success is taken when you refuse to be a captive of the environment in which you find yourself in. So the success of ourselves as leaders, our success of ourselves as individuals, is not about talking about where we've come from or where we've been stuck, but looking at how do we better ourselves? What else can we do to ensure that we become better people? So the content of this training today is, as I've mentioned, career skills, introduction, people skills, and the technical skills. One Max Dupree says, that the first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. And the last is to say thank you. In between defining reality and saying thank you, that a leader should be a servant and a debtor. That sums the progress of an artful leader. Now this just from this guru called Max Dupree, that as a leader, you must define reality. So as we sit where we are, we need to ask ourselves first, do we have a reality? Is there a reality that we are headed towards? Is there a reality that we envision? Because leadership is about that direction. Then, do we have a reality that we envision? And the last word he says, we need to say thank you. But in between that, we are looking at people who are able to serve. And also you are a debtor. But I believe by the end of the session, you'll be able to know what this statement means when we say that you must be a servant and also you must be a debtor. What is it that you'll be owing these people? What is that you owe to them? You've most often not heard about this political rhetoric where some people are saying, you owe us, you owe me a debt, you don't owe me any political debt, you owe me all these and all that. So then, does that resonate with this definition or this concept from Max Dupree? Have we experienced any aspects of servantship from these people at the political arena? And why do we usually say that these people have a debt? So if you are a leader, then what sort of debt do you owe to the people? That's what underlines this definition, and also what the concept with view of this, where we say then for you to become an artful leader, then you must define reality, say thank you, and be a servant leader, as well as be a debtor. So with the introduction, one of the things that we need to consider, or we need to have clarity on under the introduction of leadership skills, is knowing the resources for the group. After that, we need to have ourselves acquainted with what is communicating, what is planning, controlling group performance, evaluations. How do we evaluate the performance? How do we evaluate ourselves vis-a-vis the people that we are leading? Or how do you evaluate yourself in view of who is leading you? Then there is also the aspect of setting examples. To what extent do we set examples? So that we are looking at exemplary leadership. So that we, at this moment then, we don't want to be leaders who talk, but we don't walk that talk. We don't want to be like one of my primary school teachers, when we are growing up, he used to tell us that do as I say, but not as I do. And he was just doing that to caution us that we should not do exactly what the teacher does, because the teacher and the pupil are completely different. So he used to remind us that always remember that do as I say, but not as I do. So that's now, if we are to borrow that, then that we need to set examples. Then we'll also be looking at sharing leadership. We'll also look at counseling and effective teaching. That's what will form the basis of our introduction to leadership skills. So knowing resources to the group. And this, I think I will take it from the two perspectives. If you look at my diagram, the diagram is talking about easy to change, and also this other side, difficult to change. What are these things that are easy to change? And they all converge towards leadership. So the easy to change things, we have knowledge and skills, but the difficult to change things are attitude and character. Sometimes when you read in literature, you hear that people coming up with so many hypothesis about what attitude is. How do you define attitude? Sometimes you hear some quote saying that attitude is like a flat tire. You hear people saying that character is always something that people tend to hide and it's not easy to correct and all that. So based on this viewpoint then, as a leader, you need to know the resources of this group. And these resources are actually classified into those 4 areas. You have the people who have the resources in terms of knowledge, their skills, their attitude, and their character. So when leaders use the knowledge and skills of the group participants to get a job done, the participants will gain experience and improve their skills. They also develop a positive attitude towards using a particular skill. So this then means that you as a leader, you must utilize your knowledge and skills of a group participants to get a job done. From the definition that we got from Marilyn and I think it was Daniel, they talked about the ability to influence group of people towards a particular goal. We should be alive to the fact that when you're dealing with people, people are very diverse. You'll get people who are diverse in knowledge. You may be leading somebody who is more knowledgeable than you, but that does not negate the fact that you are leading them. You may get people with skills that are way ahead above you, or you may get people with less skills below you. But then the question is, are you able to bring in harmony? Are you able to bring in synergy with this kind of diversity that you have? You may have people with varied attitudes. And these are common phenomena in all organizations, where you hear people saying that so-and-so has a very bad attitude, so-and-so has a good attitude, so-and-so is not very outgoing, so-and-so is not very or willing to assist other people, or so-and-so is not very comfortable working as a team. Then we have character, where also, depending on the disposition of these people that you're dealing with, the question is, are you able to have people with character that can support growth, character that can support achievement of the goals and objectives? Use that. Cosmos, it looks like you are, is it Cosmos or who? Okay, I think, yeah, that voice or that sound has disappeared. Sorry about that. So anyway, I was saying that from this slide then, these are the resources that people have. So the onus is on you to ensure that you understand each one of them so that we are able to converge at a common goal. So you have to utilize your skills and knowledge of leading to ensure that the people that are with you, the people that you want to marshal, the people that you want to mobilize are able actually to conform to the ideologies that you do have. So that's one aspect of this introduction to leadership skills. The second one is the art of communication for a leader. Now that you've understood the resources, the second bit is the art of communication. Many leaders in the world fail to lead, or they fail in their responsibilities because of poor communication. It's a very, very vital aspect that as a leader, you must communicate. You must communicate, even if it's a new change, even if it's something that is common, just always communicate, because with communication, then it actually shades off any doubt. It shades off any grapevine. People will not come up with rumors, because once communication is clear, then as a leader, people will believe in your vision. People will understand your idea and people will actually be able to see how can they fit into that kind of idea. That's the essence of leadership. Otherwise, you will be communicating. If you don't communicate correctly, you might communicate that we have an enemy ahead of us whom we want to fight. And instead of people, because they have not understood clearly your communication, your articulation is not clear, they'll actually be going to the other side. They're actually going backwards while you expect them to be joining you forwards. So normally that breakdown in communication happens because of lack of clarity. I know that there are these games, maybe you've been able to go through them when you're doing your team buildings, where you're looking at communication. And maybe a word is uttered to the first person, then this person is supposed also to utter the same word to the next person. By the time that statement reaches the final person, apparently you find that that statement has been manipulated and it doesn't sound as it were at the start. Now, that is the challenge with the communication breakdown. Information tends to be manipulated, it tends to be sieved, and even the distortion is just too overwhelming. So, as a leader, the challenge is, do you have, or do you ensure that you clearly communicate your idea? Do you communicate clearly the objective? Like if we are talking about a common action, then do you ensure that you've communicated in the language that is understood, the language that is comprehended by every member of your team? So it is important that we clearly understood that, or we clearly understand the need for communication. Now look at this diagram. There's this diagram showing somebody trying to communicate to the team, and you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see that guy in a white shirt describing something to the team, and you can see how attentive the members seem to. Contrary to this other, on the right-hand side, getting information, look at this lady who looks to be completely out of touch with this communication. While the gentleman is trying to talk to her, you find that she looks completely desolate, completely dejected, and she's not even concentrating. She's not even listening to this gentleman. And you can visualize that maybe they're having a date, but you find that the lady is not interested in the conversation. She appears like she's already made up her mind that whatever this guy is talking is nonsense, or it doesn't add any value to her. So this just, that picture just meant to give you the glimpse of, if you want the communication to be correct, if you want the communication to achieve what you want it to achieve, then you ensure that it is clearly done and there's no breakdown in that kind of communication. And that's why down here we say that we should ensure that for us to achieve that art of communication as a leader, then you must pay attention and listen carefully, make notes and sketches, ask questions, and repeat your understanding of what was said. There has to be that communication, there has to be asking questions, because communication can only be effective if it's two-way. The person receiving the information and being able to decode that, the meaning of that information, as well as the person who is encoding. So the manner in which you're drafting that communication, the manner in which you're speaking out, the tone that you're using will have an impact now on the person receiving that communication and in the interpretation thereon that they'll have towards the message that you have. So when you're giving information, ensure that others are listening before you speak, and always speak slowly and clearly. Draw diagrams when need, then have listeners repeat the understanding of what you said. And above all, we should always encourage questions. You know, questions are meant to seek clarity. Otherwise, you may think that you are communicating only to realize that everybody else is interpreting your statements in their own manner. And at the end of it, you have a team, you have a group who have not understood anything, or they have understood it with different from the different angles that that they have. And that's where, remember, in communication, we talk about sometimes there is what we call selective interpretation. So you may be talking to people, but their interpretation is very selective. Or somebody just looking at the speaker and just saying, this speaker, I don't like them. Or I don't like this message. This person, I don't like them because every time they don't talk anything that is important. So having that mindset already, it brings that barrier, the barrier in communication. At no point will you hear anything that is positive. And that's very common with how we interact with our leaders at different levels. Because if there is somebody that is speaking to you and you disregard them, chances are that you will not pay attention to their communication. Because you'll be selective and you'll be that person. And you have this commonly happening even in meetings where somebody will, whenever there's that conversation and somebody hears that you're talking, they will say, no, I know what you want to say. Just keep quiet because I know what you want to say. So already you're putting a barrier in this communication and you're making the other person to feel that their idea is not important or their feedback or their input is not important because you've already judged them. You've misjudged them about based on maybe a recent behavior or character that they have exhibited. And therefore, according to you, there is nothing positive from them, which becomes misleading as a leader. So leaders have to be very cautious. They have to be, their conscience has to be right to ensure that you do not find yourself in this kind of quagmire. The other aspect is planning. So any leader, you as a leader, you should ensure that you plan. Planning is very key for you as a leader. Because one, you need to consider the tasks and objectives and ask yourself, what do I want to accomplish? Every day, you should be asking yourself, what is that I want to accomplish by the end of the day? What is that I want to accomplish by the end of the month, by the end of the week, by the end of the year? Do we have our own plans? Have you asked yourself, at the end of the year, do you always say, this is I've done it, this is what I've done, this is what I expected, I have not hit the target, but I've been able to make some progress. That's what a leader is, because a leader must have certain objectives which they need to achieve. So within a group, within a team, then we need to consider the tasks and objectives and look at how have you been able to align those tasks to the team members. Consider the resources. Do these people have the right resources? Do they have the right knowledge, the skills and attitudes? So that you do not find yourself working in a department with people. Maybe you've just hired somebody, a new person, and you've not considered that this person is new, one. Secondly, maybe they have not been exposed to this kind of work environment or the kind of responsibilities that come with this position. But your assumption here is that since we've hired you, you must perform. So you give the person the objectives, give them the targets, and here you are and telling them, can you perform? At the end of it, you'll be surprised because even this person will not perform well. And upon interrogation, maybe they'll tell you that they were still trying to get acquainted with how things are done. So they required some time to acclimatize with the environment, the culture, something just to make them to fit into the position quite fast. But our assumption usually is that once we hire you, then we don't care whether you also understand even the machines that we're using. Our assumption is that you must have used them, therefore you have to perform. Then another aspect under planning is to consider the alternative, brainstorm. Brainstorming gives you a wider view of something and just to give you alternatives on what is it that you can do better as a leader. So meaning as a leader, then you have, you're talking about the resources, but then you're asking yourself, how well can this be done with the team that I have? Do I need now to have a more personalized approach to these people to ensure that they achieve their objectives? do I need to, or how often do I need to interact with them? Now, that's where you brainstorm about it. Then another point is ritualization, evaluating each option, write the plan down and review it, execute the plan and evaluate the plan. So that sums up this aspect of planning. That as a leader, planning is indispensable. You cannot talk about a leadership without having a plan. The other aspect, which is aspect number 3, sorry, is number 4, yes, is controlling group performance. And with this one, we say that a leader should influence the performance of the group and individual participants through his or her actions. But then the question is, why do you think you need to control? Why should we have control of these? So the leader is at the center, then it should be the one coordinating and controlling how others are. So consider this example of the engine. Does the engine run without a throttle? No. So the throttle has to be in between to ensure that at the center, to ensure that it controls the movement of these other parts of the engine. So similarly, a group works together best when everybody is headed in the same direction. And you know the consequence if people are working on different directions. That means you spend a lot of energy, a lot of resources, but pursuing different intentions. So having a plan and ensuring that this plan encompasses the people is what will enable you to achieve, and it makes it easier even within the period of time that you're working as a team to achieve your objectives. So if a plan is to be properly carried out, someone must lead the effort. The control is a function that a group assigns to the leader to get the job done. So the leader becomes that person that keeps monitoring each of the team members to ensure that nobody drifts away, to ensure that everyone is putting in their best, to ensure that they're putting together their efforts towards achieving the common objective or common action. So this control happens as a result of recognizing the difference between where the group is and where the group is going. That's where you stand and look at where you are and ask yourself, where are we going? So the leader is responsible for developing the plan to help the group get to its goal. So you as a leader, then your prerogative is to ensure that you have a proper plan, and this is a plan that you share with the group, with the team, and they'll have that ownership. And according to them, then it will be a plan of action for them. So each one of them will put in their respective responsibilities and duties. So as they achieve the individual responsibilities, the automatically responsibility of the group is also achieved. That is with regard to controlling the group. Remember, as we're saying, the control must ensure that we have a leader. That's the leader who will monitor and ensure that the group performance is achieved. The next concept is evaluation of the leader activities. Now, under evaluation basically helps the performance of the group in getting a job done and working together. It also suggests ways in which the group can improve its performance. So when you're evaluating, then, of course, evaluation is two-way. It tends to focus on both this, where you've succeeded and where you've not succeeded. So having that in mind, then, it enables you to go back to your plan and ask yourself, my plan was that we are able to achieve this within this time. But apparently, we've only attained this percentage within this timeline that we've set. So then, did we not put the right resources within this work? Or were we overambitious? So that's the way now you go back to the drawing board and understand exactly what made you not to achieve what you've done. And it gives you also an opportunity to assess the other potential areas for improvement. And you can always come up with another plan, a remedial action now towards achieving that. So when you're evaluating this, then the evaluation is given from the two angles. There is getting the job done and keeping the group together. I want the work to be done, but at the same time, I must be cautious enough to ensure that I keep this group or the team together, lest I will concentrate on the job and lose out on the team, so that I may be thinking of just work and work and work. And within a short period of time, I find that people have just disintegrated. People are exiting, okay? People are just leaving the organization. And you see, that is what will crown the ideology that people don't leave organizations, they leave bosses or they leave their leaders. So you as a leader, then you must take cognizance of the fact that you want to ensure that you keep the team together. But at the same time, you want to ensure that you get the job done. So when you do that, then you ask yourself, was the job done? Was it done in the right way? Was it done at the right time? Then on this other side, you ask yourself now to keep the group together. Were relationships between group participants helped or hurt? So in the course of executing my role as a leader, at any given point, injure the relationships of the participants. In any given time, make this group to be disintegrated. So those are the questions. That's one of the questions that you'll ask yourself in a bid to keep the group together. Another question you'll ask yourself is, was participation equally distributed among group participants? Did you actualize that everybody else took part? Did everyone's effort get into the team? Did you realize that? Or we have some people who are sitting on the fence while others were toiling and putting in their effort? Did the group enjoy the activity? That's very, very important. Anytime you feel like you're not enjoying the job that you are doing, then you must just pinch yourself and ask yourself, why am I here? Because you must ensure that you enjoy the work, enjoy the kind of activity that you're engaging in. Did the group handle the conflicts well? Groups and conflicts are inseparable. So it's always imperative that we look at ways of going around the conflicts, because with the diversity of team members, there's no way you'll have a harmonious or a homogeneous kind of team. You'll have people with the different viewpoints, and that's what actually makes it interesting to have a team. So did the group handle the conflicts? Well, that would be a question that you ought to ask yourself as you look at this evaluation. Then remember, as I started, I also talked about setting the example. And just to highlight that, this is a very important leadership skill. Leaders must lead by example, and it's a very effective way of showing people how to conduct themselves, and even more effective than even verbal communication. People will always look up to you as a leader. The same way you look up to your parents as a leader is the same way, or the same way the children look up to you as a parent. It's the same way you look up to the person who is leading you. It's the same way people look up to you, because they want you to give them the direction. If you are a gentleman and maybe a child comes to you that they have been, or another child has poked fun against them, they'll always, according to them, that you being the dad, their dad does not get defeated, and they'll come confidently to you and tell you, they report to you that case and say, utamchapa, tutamchapa ama utachapa yeye. That means, according to them, they have a lot of confidence in you. They believe in you. And at no point should you appear like you are less or you don't have that power, that authority in yourself. Because already the manner in which you conduct yourself should resonate with the position that you are. So if you're leading people, then you must at any given time ensure that you exhibit a character of a leader. Your attitude should be that of a leader. The skills and the knowledge should be that of a leader. Well, you may have a debate, people saying that some leadership qualities are acquired, others are innate. But assuming now, if you're getting a job or a promotion, or you're leading people within your organization, then whether you acquired or not, or the innate, or some characteristics that you have are innate, it is imperative that you also learn how to deal with people. And that's where nowadays we talk about emotional intelligence, that we need to acquire that skill so that it enables us to know our own social disposition, as well as the disposition of other people. And also that is what sums up in the disposition of the group. So that if you're having disposition of people with a particular character in a particular group, then it must be well in your mind that for me to handle this kind of character, I need to have this kind of skill. I need to have this kind of knowledge, but I need to know the approach that I will use to ensure that I do not injure the interest of this team or these members at the expense of my decision maybe to discipline one of them or to discipline all of them. So one way of setting an example is to imagine yourself as part of the group and think about how you would like your leader to act. And I'm sure we've all heard about this empathy, where you say, put yourself in the shoes of the person that you are leading, and just ask yourself, if I'm John, whom I'm leading, will John be comfortable with what I'm doing? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. So by leading by example, always put yourself in that situation. Put yourself in the shoes of the follower and just ask yourself, if I'm that follower, then will I be excited by what the leader is doing? Will I be happy? Will I be comfortable? Or will I be having my own reservations about that? So once you start, if you put yourself in those shoes and you believe that you are not very comfortable, if you are seated down there, then it means your example is misplaced. You ought now to rethink the strategy that you're applying to ensure that your example is correctly matched. Then we have sharing of leadership. And here, when we say that we're looking at sharing of leadership, look at that diagram, and you can see the person with the suit. The person with the suit is ostensibly now the leader, but you can see the direction within which he, being at that point, is drawing the support, or is also acknowledging that he is where he is because of the three. It's because of that team. So the success of this person at that point is not about him, but about the team. And for a good leader, when work is done, his aim is fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves. Hence, as a leader, then you need to give participants the skills that they need that makes now the team to achieve its anticipations or its objectives. So as a leader, then he or she offers leadership opportunities to team participants and actually teaches them the skills that they need. And once you do that, then the work will be very easy. People do their work responsibly, and it will make your work also to be easy. Then we have another concept, which is counseling. Counseling is important because as you identify that you have people with different capacities, there are people who will have some weaknesses, there are people who will be facing challenges with regard to executing their work. Those people then require counseling. When they are subjected to counseling, then it will help them to solve problems. Secondly, it will encourage and reassure them that they are valued. You know, anytime you engage somebody in counseling, that means you are making them to identify that problem that they are facing and to give them a reassurance that they can always overcome that problem. And as you do that also, they can be able to see their potential and how well they can reach that potential through counseling. So from the team, as you evaluate it, then it will bring in out the aspect of you being able to counsel them. So this counseling can be effective when a person is undecided or he or she can't make a decision, confused, he or she doesn't have enough information or has too much information, when the person is locked in or he does not know any alternatives. So it's upon you now to unlock those alternatives. It's upon you to make them open up their minds so that they are not blocked. They don't have a blocked mind. I've had cases where I work. Sometimes people do not perform, but when you interrogate them and you have a conversation with them, that's when you realize that it's just an aspect of blocking the mind. But that's when they realize, oh, so I could have asked, so I could have gotten this support. I thought I could not get. So that's in view of this counseling, the aspect of when counseling becomes very important. That sometimes we get locked in our minds. So once you get locked, then it affects the manner in which you need to execute the roles that you're in. So we need to ensure that counseling will enable us to be able to make these people see alternatives, that there has to be a way out. Never think about you not doing it. You can always say, I can do it. And I usually challenge people that I interact with that in life will never be fair. Life is always unfair. That's one thing that you must take cognizance, that life is unfair. But for you to succeed, you must be resilient. It's about the resilience that you put in, and it's about the focus that you will put in. That focus and resilience is what will make you now not to keep on complaining about how unfair life is. But then that's when you'll say, I think I can do it. Or I think I've been able to marshal some effort. I've been able to marshal my success through this. So always think positively. Look at things and say, if people did it, why can't I do it? If people did it, why can't I do it? That's the only way that you can be able to look at things differently. And that's what will motivate you to get to greater heights. Because whatever is in your mind, whatever your mind conceives and believes in is what you achieve. If every time you conceive a situation to be difficult and something that you cannot do it, believe you me, that's what will happen to you. But if you conceive things and say, this is just a challenge, this is something that I can overcome, then definitely also that's what you will achieve. Because your mind has what we call the unlimited power. The mind of any human being has that unlimited power. It is just a matter of unraveling that and ensuring that you achieve to the expectation that you've set yourself. So how do we carry out this counseling? We should do that by understanding the situation, listen carefully. Then secondly, check the facts, paraphrase to make sure you understand. Then look at the options, list from those options, look at which one is the most advantageous in the order of that priority. then list the disadvantages and advantages of the options, then let the person decide the solution. Remember, the counselor's role is to give encouragement and information, but not to make a decision. As a counselor, you're not making the decision for that person, or even when you go for counseling, the counselor does not make a decision for you, but they give you the options. And having taken you through those options and how well they can work, it's now upon you to decide and say, well, I'm going to take this kind of direction, or this is the approach I'm going to take. That's the essence of understanding how counseling is done. Then lastly, under the introduction on leadership skills is effective teaching, where we're saying that as a leader, then you must engage in effective teaching, which means increasing the knowledge, skills, and attitudes of the group, and its focus on learning, not teaching. For teaching to be effective, learning must take place. For teaching to be effective, learning must take place. And learning leads to change in behavior, change in character, change in attitude, change in the knowledge, change in the skills. So whenever we experience that permanence, change in a person, in yourself, that's when you can say learning has taken place. And you can only achieve that if you choose the learning objective. That's what I was saying. You must have a plan of what you want to achieve. That's under the learning objective. Then you provide a discovery learning experience that helps the learner understand the skill, the need for the skill, demonstrate or explain the skill, then allowing the learner to practice the skill, then lastly, evaluating the process. So that is what informs or sums up that introduction with regard to leadership skills. Do you have any question up to that point or any interjection? Maybe you feel something is not clear, then make sure that you raise your hand, or you can always use the chat section to give your comment or to seek clarification from where I'm making this presentation. So that is it with the introduction. And I want us to, what time is it? Yeah, maybe you can take just a break for 10 minutes, as I said. Then after that, we proceed with the career skills for leaders. Unless if there is any question, I beg to take a break of 10 minutes. That means we continue again in the next at 5 minutes past 10. 5 minutes past 10 for the second and final bit of the conversation. Right, thank you. And maybe you can stretch a little bit as I also take a sip of tea with me here. Telling that you are very far, otherwise I will have welcomed you to join me with in this tea session. So let's meet again at 5 minutes past 10 to continue from where I've stopped. Right. Once again, I think we can proceed. It's already 8 minutes past 10. I hope you've had a deserved break. Around 3 people have not logged in yet. We just promote some people to join in. All right. Good. I think we can take up from where we stopped. We had just completed on the introductory bit of leadership skills. So now I want us to look or take our attention to career skills for the leaders. Career skills for the leaders. And under the career skills for the leaders, the main concern or the main focus will be understanding others. That as a leader, we need to understand others and ourselves. And how do we do this? If you look at that diagram, it's supposed to be the introverts and extroverts. There's no way you as an introvert, you can become an extrovert. And at no point can an extrovert become an introvert. So you cannot transform yourself overnight and say, I've been an introvert, but this time I want to be an extrovert. I want to be this charismatic leader. I want to be talking like Martin Luther King. I want to be talking like Barack Obama. It's not possible. In fact, that will just lead to desperation and frustration with you. The only thing that you need to do is, how well can I bring my introvert or introversion into play? How well can I use my extroversion to achieve what I want? But never, ever think of changing who you are. And I think this is a common line of thought people have been harboring even in life, where you say, I will change the person. You cannot change that person. It's all about having to acknowledge, understanding, and being able to accept that that is the situation. This is a person that you have to work with. There's no way you can change that person. Even yourself now as a leader, then you cannot change yourself. And that's why we're saying that do not try to be someone else. Do not try to be someone else. Neither do not try to change the other person. What you ought to do is you be patient. You ought to be aware. Find the right situation in which to work and build the team. That's what I would like to emphasize, that let us always build the team, find the situation that will work well for me, for my character, for my skill. Because if you look at this part, I say that if you're not an introvert, then you are not suddenly going to transform yourself into, if you're an introvert, you can't transform yourself into an extrovert. Under stress, people do not resort to a second style of operation. So if you possess these characteristics or these traits, you are very inaccessible, you are more private, you are actually, it's like you're kept off, you're sheltered, you're enclosed. Chances are you and an extrovert who is open, more accessible, less private, exposed, the two of you have to work together. But when you work together, don't leave to be the other person. Don't think that you'll become the other person. Neither can the other person think to be you. Because this is just like the way we say life. Life is like a book. The different pages that I'm writing on, I could be writing my own things. But we are on page 2. You're in page 2 on your side. What you've written on page 2 is completely different from what I've written on my page 2. So having acknowledged that those are the differences that are there, then leadership is about taking comprehension of this and looking at what is the best way to ensure that I'm able to build the team. That will be a very important concept. So when you understand others, then you also try not to change the other person. After understanding, do not try to be someone else. The next is do not try to change the other person. For example, in this diagram, we can say, hey, Paul, come on, what are you up to? Please don't make me to accept this. So understand how the other people's styles differ from yours. These differences are positive. Together, you are likely to be able to achieve more than if you operate independently. So always look at others and see how can you get the best out of them, but not how you can change them. You may have somebody who is very good, who is very creative, and you have another person who is very good in computation, but within the team. So don't dream of making this person who is good in computation to actually become creative, because that way you will fail terribly. But try to see, if we have a creative person and we have a computation team or a computational person, then how can we utilize these? How can we make sure that we utilize each one of them efficiently to get the best out of what you're doing? We also need to be patient. If you are highly task focused, it can be frustrating if someone else never talks about critical tasks in hand. Instead, this person talks about people the whole time. So always be patient. We also need to be aware that most of us stumble into these personal and professional relationships. We know how long it takes to build a personal relationship. We have little time to build a professional relationship. We need to understand other people's styles first so that we can influence them positively and quickly. That's on being aware. Then on finding the right situation in which to work in, one Warren Buffett remarked that when a great manager joins, allows the company, if it is normal, the reputation of the company remains intact. The same is true of work styles. You will not change the style of the organization in which you work. You need to find a way of living with the style of your organization, or you need a new organization. That's why we're saying find the right situation in which to work, adapt, learn, Learn to fit into that position. Learn to fit into the team. Learn to accept the limitations of the team. At the same time, learn to understand the strength of the team. Okay. Then build the team. Strong teams are diverse. Hence, your responsibility is to build a strong team. Diverse does not mean that regulatory diversity have taken minority, decorating the cover of the annual report. It means the subtle diversity of building a team with complementary styles, skills, and perspectives. Building the team. So that is summarizes now those the career skills for leaders. The second bit under this career skills is leadership success matrix. That we can have a matrix of leadership success. On this matrix, where we are looking at the matrix. The matrix has the ability and the ambition. So according to this diagram, leaders can be classified as laggards, dreamers. Then we have now the leaders and the sleepers. So when it comes to ambition and ability, the laggards have a low ability and low ambition. And you can see that diagram on the lower first corner, right, on the left-hand side, where you can see they are falling down and upside up like that. Then the dreamers, these people are so ambitious. They dream big. You've heard of reading a book about the dreaming big. But then the question is, how do you actualize the dream into reality? Because you can't dream of being the president of Kenya, the president of this country, or the governor. Your ambition is very high, but then do you have that ability to be the president? Do you have the ability to be the manager? Do you have the ability to be that CEO of that company? So according to the leadership success, then you can plot yourself and say, I think I'm this very ambitious guy or person, but my ability is a bit deficient. Then we have the sleepers. And you can see from the word, the sleep, look at that diagram. The analogy is that this person is sleeping on the conference or in the meeting room table, facing up. So that person has a very high ability of leading, but he lacks ambition. So it's very low on ambition, but high on ability. Then the last one, which is now the leaders. The leaders, as you can see that diagram, very distinctive. You can see the leader very distinct from the rest. But you can see the steps, and as they progress, you can see the other followers right behind the leader. So in that case, then, if you fall into that, once you find yourself converge to that point, that means you are a leader, and therefore you are high in ambition. At the same time, you are high in the ability. If you recall the definition of leadership, we say the ability to influence people. So you have that ability and you have the ambition to lead. That's where this diagram gives us that glimpse of who, when it comes to leadership success, if you're plotting yourself, then you need to ask yourself, am I in quadrant one, the one with the laggards? Am I that in the group of sleepers? Am I the dreamers? Am I the leader? So the growth in leadership takes into, or we can look at the success of that leadership in these four perspectives, according to this matrix. So it's all about understanding where we are. Maybe some of us are under the leaders, or others we are still under dreamers, or we are at laggards, where you are not so sure. You are saying, okay, I want to be a leader. I think I can be a good leader. Now that Mary is our head, I don't think Mary possesses skills that I don't have. I also have the same character. I have even more knowledge than Mary. So in that case, I think I can make a good leader than Mary. So that way, then you're trying to plot yourself with regards to having high ambition and also the ability. So the question sometimes is, do you have the opportunity to be the leader? But it all depends with you. That's why I usually ask people, how come if today, even if you people are seated in a training room and ask you, who do you think you'll appoint as a leader for today in this training room? Chances are none of us will point at themselves and say, I can do the job, but we'll wait for other people to point on us, or we'll actually point on other people, which is common. It's a common phenomenon. But that means we are pointing at others because there are some characteristics that we feel they have, which we don't have. We feel a bit limited in what we possess, and that's why we recommend others, or we propose others to lead. Though sometimes people will propose others because they don't want the responsibility. They just want others to take that responsibility. Is that fear to take any responsibility? Good. So that's on the leadership success matrix. And let's see if there's any question on the success matrix. If there's none, then we can look at finding the right place at the right time. And on finding the right place at the right time, in this case, when you're looking at you as a leader, your career anchorage should make you to ask yourself, is this an organization with prospects? Am I in an organization that will give me opportunities to grow in my leadership? Am I in an organization that has a clear ceiling whereby once you get here, there's no movement ahead? Am I in this organization? So asking yourself these questions will give you the right understanding on whether that organization will give you the leadership prospects that you've dreamt of in the previous leadership success matrix. However, that can be limited now when we are looking at a declining organization, because that declining organization will have very few opportunities than a growing organizations. Then also, you need to be alive to the fact that those prospects, are they real? Are they sustainable? You join an organization that is growing and you are being told, we want you to grow with us. These companies have so many opportunities, but then you need to ask yourself, is this reality? Are these opportunities sustainable? Comparatively then, where does this organization sit compared to other organizations within the same industry? That way, then it will give you a clear picture on the direction that you ought to take. That's on finding the right place at the right time. At the same time, will I enjoy the work? Will I enjoy the work? That's a question that you also need to ask yourself. So as you do that, you'll have to look at spending most of the time at workplace, which is what we do. So you need to ask yourself, am I working for money? Because if it's just working for money, then you'll find that your stamina and the enthusiasm will be a bit tough to get to leadership. I read somewhere a quote which was saying that if you work 8 hours for your employer, and once you go back home, when you retire and go back home in the evening, you don't actually work on your goals and objectives, then just know that you are not tired, but you are uninspired. And that being uninspired means that it will actually block your thought towards success. You'll only be thinking about the employer. Once you've done the 8 hours, for you the day is over. But you forget that you joined that organization when other people are there, and other people have left that organization. Therefore, you also need to think that in the event I leave this organization, what will I be? Who will I be by that time? And that's why this question is, will I enjoy the work? So that drive, whatever motivates you to get to that position is what will have an impact on your success as a leader. So as we find that, it is important that we understand, we select through experiencing learning, action on the activity, review and develop ourselves, identify the negative and positive ideas towards how to exist, and select and apply for improvement. So having done that, then that brings me to how will this experience look on my CV, still on finding the right place and also the right place at a time. So once you've looked at your CV, then you look at how else can I get, or what else can I do with this experience? Am I locking myself into my current employer by acquiring very narrow sets of skills, or am I opening up myself for better results? Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, so my question is, how will this help me as a prospective leader to grow my capacity? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. The next is assessing your next move. Is this organization likely to be a winner, and why? Because remember, you want to develop yourself in that organization. Then the question is this organization going to be that brand? Because people will always want to associate with a brand. They always want to associate with success. Will this organization have more opportunities? Do I have the right skills? Can I see myself enjoying work at this new organization? Do I like the people and its purpose? Those are the fundamental questions that you ought to ask yourself. Will it grow and create opportunities for me as it grows? Will I be learning skills that will be helpful for me long term? The skills give me options. Do they tie me into specific career journey? Am I likely to succeed here? So those are the options that you'll be weighing as you grow, or as you anticipate to grow in this kind of organization. So once you do that, then you'll be understanding with regard to the career skills. Do you see yourself, your career leadership in that organization based on these areas that we've discussed? Are you able to understand others? Are you a patient person? Are you aware? Okay, building the right situation. Are you finding the right place? And have you assessed your next move? So that then brings us to the third aspect on delegation. As you build your leadership skills, then we need to be well versed with how do we carry out delegation. And this, we look at it from the principles of effective delegation. Under these principles, one of them is that we need to ensure there is clarity. If I'm delegating this work to, let's say, Thomas or Audrey, then I should ensure that I've given all the necessary information to Audrey. This will ensure that Audrey understands what is expected of them. If it's a team, if it's a task that I've delegated, then they understand clearly from end to end what is expected of them. That's why we have that clarity. Then secondly, I should ensure that I give them the right resources, or enough resources and the skill. I will not be very comfortable to delegate a role that requires some of the resources that I have, yet I've not provided the same resources to the person I'm delegating to. Because that way, then it will be failure for me on the side of delegating, and also failure for the person because they'll not be able to execute their role as delegated because of the problem with them being deficient when it comes to the resources. Thirdly, we need to be clear. There has to be clarity. Clarity on when, what the task is about, what outcomes, and being just sure that I understand what I've delegated and the person that I've delegated to understands what that role entails. Another important thing is, as a leader, be available to help. Don't delegate and disappear. Always be available to help. Because ultimately, the buck stops with you who have delegated. You are the accounting person. You are the accountable person at the end of it. Once you've delegated, you cannot come and claim that, oh, I delegated to this, and therefore let us ask them why this work was not done. Automatically, it is you who delegated that will carry the responsibility. Delegated projects, also that's another aspect that we need to delegate the projects and show faith. Now, this is what happens with, and this experience I've had from people saying that I had this person who delegated their work to me, then they have delegated, but they're still following exactly every step that I'm doing. They're not giving the person the opportunity, the freedom to carry out the task. Meaning there's a lot of interference still as much as ever they have delegated. At times, and this is very common, people go on leave, they delegate the work, but they're the ones still calling and giving instructions. They want to appear like that task cannot be done without their input. They want to create an impression that nothing can go on without them doing that. And in most cases, they don't delegate fully. They give you a little information so that you keep asking them, calling them and asking, how do we go about this? I cannot trace this document. How do we access this information? That way then, that's somebody that is not practicing effective delegation. And it actually affects the outcome or the results of the whole process. So if you are delegating, if you are a leader, ensure that you believe in the person that you're delegating to. Always have faith in them and give them the right resources, communicate clearly, and just be available to help. But let not appear like you want to control everything. Or it's like you're working, you're actually on leave, but you're still working from where you are. That is not proper or effective delegation. So when you talk about ensuring resources, I think that what I've mentioned, be clear about what the report should be available, but not interfere with all the time. I've talked about that. Ensure that the suggestion solutions are meant for them to learn. Delegate meaningful projects, not administrative. Stretch people and they'll rise to the challenge. Give away mundane jobs only demotivates people. So don't give mundane jobs, because that would be very demotivating. We should not give mundane jobs, because we're saying that will be it will demotivate. The next is showing faith. Praise success and do not undermine the team. As you can see that diagram, show and trust in them. So anytime you delegate, trust in what you've delegated. Trust in the people. But do not, in one way you're delegating, but at the same time, you also want to appear like, as I've said, work cannot proceed without you, or that work cannot be done, or people cannot do it, they had to call me. You know, these people cannot work until I'm there. They cannot do it without me. So that is what we are saying should not be the case. Now, this is the effective delegation chart. Very important and less important. So when you look at that chart, we have delegate, supervise, and support closely. That's a very important one. That now others can do this. Delegate, make sure you are delegating more than just the rubbish. Then on this only, I can do this. On less important, could you be development opportunity for others? Take the lead, involve others so that they can learn and develop. So that's just a summary of, in view of others can do and only me can do, or only I can do this. Involve others so that they learn and develop. That's very important, so that we don't have that aspect of only me. And also when we are delegating, are we delegating to develop these people? Is there an opportunity for them to grow? Then I want us to look at this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, I'm just checking to see whether there is this diagram. See what it was about. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This diagram, we have it here because it tends to help us to understand how the need for leadership, or the growth, or the motivation to leadership position is influenced by the needs that we have. So with the different levels of needs that we fall in, then it tends now to propel us to greater heights. And as we are propelled to those greater heights, then that is also what informs our need. So this diagram tends to give what we call an authorized revisionist leadership vision. The leadership vision, which starts with at the lower level, where we talk about, or we normally talk about the security or the psychological needs, the basic needs. Then after that, we look at the pay, the job security, the belonging, the esteem, the living legacy, and also the self-actualization. So this diagram, as you can see, it is not very, it doesn't look like the normal Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but this one tends to have the aspect of leadership. That your leadership need, or the drive to become or to grow into that leadership position, is influenced by these different sections or different categories of who you are. Then apart from that, then we look at the art of coaching under the people skills, the art of coaching. Remember, initially under the introduction, we talked about the art of counseling. Now here we have the art of coaching. Now, coaching is essentially helping people discover their own potential and resolve their own issues. It's not about telling them what to do or solving their problem for them. It's basically making them to understand that this is my capacity, this is my capability. What can I do about it? Okay. Let's see, there is a chart. Okay. We got the communication from the CHRP, giving advice and guidance and suggestion ideas, giving feedback to people, asking questions to understand the context and looking for options, listening, summarizing, and reflecting. So that, or those 5 points, summarizes the art of coaching. You'll be given that feedback, then you need to understand what options do you have, listen, summarize, and reflect. That way, even as we said, we want to develop into leadership or want to become leaders, then it calls for a lot of reflection so that we understand what is it that we are capable of. What is it that we are capable of? Because we need to hold ourselves responsible for any higher standards if we want to lead. Otherwise, if we don't hold ourselves with those higher standards, then that would be a drift towards lack of leadership or lack of potential with regard to leading. And that would mean that we're not following the whole direction on leadership. The coaching structure, agree on the goal. Why is it important to know? What is the situation? All that is what you need to look at. Excuse me. Then we need to create and evaluate the options. Have you ever seen or have you seen anything similar before? What happened? What choices do you have? What others want? What are the risks and benefits of each course of action? These are the questions that you ask yourself during coaching. What have you seen? Have you seen this position, or have you ever been in this situation before? At times when you ask your capability to become a leader, we'll ask you, give us a situation where you led people. Give us a situation where you had a difficult person and you dealt, and how did you deal with it? Give us a situation where you made a decision that impacted on the organization. How did it go? Share with us an experience where you led a team. So all those are issues that now will bring out the leadership in you. Now that's the essence of understanding now how coaching or the coaching structure gives us that glimpse. So having looked at this bit on people skills, then I want us to move to the technical skills, which is actually the final bit of this discussion. But before I do that, I will welcome if there's any question with regard to the people skills and how we need to execute them. Is there any question? Is there any comment before we move to the technical skills for leaders? Having looked at the aspect of clarity, where I said ensure the skills resources are there, be clear, be available for help, delegate projects that are important or work that is feasible, delegate, show faith. Then after that, we talked about the delegation chart, the hierarchy of needs, then the art of coaching and the coaching structure. Is there any question before we move to the last and final bit of this presentation? That's on technical skills. Or any comment, any clarification? No clarification, no question. So I assume we're on the right track. Okay, let me assume that way. I hope I've not lost anyone. Good, so let me proceed to the final section, which is writing skills or the technical skills for a leader. What technical skills do we need to have as leaders? And there are quite a number of them. But the first one is telling a story through writing. Sorry, it's writing actually. Then, so writing is basically the manner in which we need to communicate and share the information that we want to share with the people that we are leading. How do we write? How do you construct the language? When I look at your work, if you're writing a communication, if you're writing a business letter, if you're writing a letter to staff, how does the content of the letter look like? What is the structure? What is the format? Have you followed the correct format? Have you used the right language? Or are you using very bombarding language? You know, we have people who will go to the dictionary and just lift words. So when somebody is reading their work, they're a bit perturbed because now you ask yourself, do I need a dictionary to interpret this work? What was the purpose? What was the reason behind this person writing a letter that is full of jargon, a letter that is full of these vocabularies and all that? So we expect that leaders are articulate and they write simple and comprehensive language that is clear to understand, language that is simple without making it appear to be so difficult to interpret. That's the first skill. The second skill is tell the story. Telling the story. So as a leader, and that's why you hear people saying that, oh, we want leaders will always have a vision. That's now telling the story. So that story comes from you as a leader envisioning a particular direction for the group or for the team. And therefore, what will be at the back of your mind is, how do I need to communicate with these people so that they understand the direction that we are taking? How do I make them to acknowledge that we have to have or to adopt to our new technology? How do I discuss with them so that they require or they get the right information to enable them make the right decision towards putting the efforts together? What is the minimum amount of information required to support the message? So these questions will be actually what forms the basis of telling a story or to a leader. Keep it simple. Use short words to remember. When writing, keep it short, a dozen of words at most per thought. So that's what we need to do. Then the passive and the personal, do not make a document business-like. They make the document boring, make it readable instead if you want it to be read. So that is just another component of why I've said there's technical skills for leaders. So whatever we are writing, let us make it as articulate as possible, as I've said. Let us use readable language, simple sentences which do not make it difficult for somebody to interpret the word. So we need to make it active. If something is important, urgent or strategic, explain why it's important, urgent or strategic to your reader. That's why we say support the assertions with facts. Do not just threaten and say, if you're not going to support these, if you're not going to comply, then we will have no position for you. If you're not going to comply, we'll punish you. That should not be the case. When you are writing, let your communication look firm, but also courteous. Firm communication and also a courteous communication. So that if it's an emphasis on a particular principle, if it's an emphasis on a particular requirement, let it come out clearly. But let not people read maybe that the intonation is a bit unprofessional, or maybe the choice of words. Let that not come from a leader. If you are to emphasize urgent decisions, emphasize it in a very, very firm manner. Then we talk about listening. So as a leader, listening is a very, very vital aspect or a skill. When you're listening, and I've always sometimes made fun and say that you need to ask yourself that when in a conversation, how come I have 2 ears? The ears I have are 2, but the mouth is just 1. It means that God had a purpose, that you speak less and listen more. So good leaders will always listen more and speak less. So when someone talks, try paraphrasing back to them what they said. If you get it right, the other person will be delighted to hear that you are listening so well. If you get it wrong, you'll quickly avoid any further misunderstandings. And this you've seen at times, you are having a conversation with somebody, but then when they respond, you ask yourself, did this person really understood what I was saying? So is the problem the person not having taken time to understand what I was saying, or is it that the language that I was using was not clear? So that's the question that you need to ask yourself. So as a leader, the honors is to be as articulate as possible. Ensure that you communicate the information that you want communicated at the right time, and always avoid any of this jargon that will make the interpretation of your message to be wrong. So asking open questions, the more open the question, the more people talk. A closed question gets a yes or no answer. It gives little information and often leads to conflict. Then open questions will start with, how do you like this work? How do you think about the team? How do you think about the general environment? How will you like to be supported? Why did they do that? What will you do if you are to become the head of this department? So those are some of the questions that we can use to support us just have a glimpse of what we ought to do as leaders. Also, still under listening, we have what we call debriefing. So debriefing means that we spend a few minutes with the person to just give them or to share more about what is the expected of the kind of action that I want them to do. So give them, for example, if you're giving instructions to a colleague, then the debrief will be you're telling them what is the work about, how do they need to go about it, what support do they need, and what is the outcome, how the report should look like. So that way then you make the person listen to you to get a clear understanding of their role. And also if they have any question, actually they will ask you. Now they will ask you, okay, if after this, then how do I send the report? What is the format of the report? That way then you are now giving this person the confidence in doing the work. That's now through debriefing. So as a leader, then it's important that we exhibit this debriefing through under the listening, so that we make the person that is listening to us to be as clear as possible. Then we have what we call presenting styles as a leader. And this, I know many people have a challenge when it comes to presentation. I've seen many people struggling to come up with just a PowerPoint presentation. And it all boils down to, it's more of a branding. How do you brand yourself? If you're making a presentation, how do you want people to see it? Because usually that image, the image portrays a lot about you. So how do you present yourself? How do you stand? How do you talk? Okay, with the kind of people that you want to present this to. What sort of perception are you creating when it comes to presentation? You've seen, in most cases, when people have a presentation, you find that they are dressed very well. They have a very well-knit dress code and all that. That's just to give them the oomph, to give them that confidence in the presentation. But the other bit is, now that you are making a presentation about your department, or you're making a presentation because of the task that you're working on as a team, you are supposed to focus on the E's, or these 5 E's. One is the energy. Do you have the energy? Show the energy in your presentation. By showing the energy, that will create the excitement in the people. And as people get excited, they'll get the enthusiasm. They get that drive to hear about you. Then they'll actually enjoy it. So in your presentation, if you're making a presentation, a physical presentation within a team, then let people see the confidence in you. Don't make a presentation as if you want to disappear, as if you want to hide. Sometimes I've seen people, they make a presentation and it's like they want to hide into the document. They don't want to be seen. That should not be the case. Always exhibit the energy. Because once people have given you that, or they have granted you that opportunity, always exploit it to the maximum. Let people see how powerful you are. Sometimes I've seen people when they come for interviews. Sometimes when you are on the panel for interviews, there are people who come in and their presentation is just wow because of the energy, and you can see the expertise until it leaves the panelists enjoying that kind of interaction. Is because of the energy that they have. And also, contrary, also you get some people who come and they look like they don't have energy at all. And you ask them, maybe did you even take breakfast? Because they look like they don't have the energy. Just that fear. You know, it's like sometimes you are so phobic to the extent that even you are not able to communicate, or you look so disorganized because of lack of energy. So to build yourself, to build your leadership skill, then you need to ensure that your presentation is apt. Your presentation is top-notch, and you take consideration of these 5 E's: the energy, the expertise, the enthusiasm, the excitement, and the enjoyment. Very, very important when you're doing your presentation. So when you're making that presentation, throw away the script, memorize your opening to make a good start, memorize your conclusion to make a good finish. In other words, try as much as possible not to appear like you are reading every bit of your presentation, just to make it look real, make it look like you own the presentation. Avoid complicated slide presentation. If you have slides, have it, do not have stupid slides, but a smarter presenter. The slide might have 3 or 4 keywords to help the audience or anchor what you're doing. Stand on the front of your feet. Weight on the back of the feet encourages slouching and down energy. Yeah, so stand in front, on the front of your feet. So don't stand as if you're falling down or you need some support with regard to your positioning. Engage the audience. Look at the individuals in the eye and don't gaze in the middle of the park. Not stare at one person the whole time. Because I've seen sometimes people, when they make the presentation, they're looking at the ceiling or they're looking at the windows. Just move your eyes across the people. That way, then you're instilling the confidence, and actually you'll make the people to feel comfortable with your presentation. Then allow me now to introduce this third last aspect when it comes to the technical skills. As a leader, you need to possess the problem-solving techniques. The problem-solving techniques. And that means that you'll have to be clear who has the problem and the consequence of fixing that we have to be clear on problem-solving process and techniques, be clear on who has the problem and the consequences of fixing it. If you look at that diagram, you as a leader, we are trying to see how the diagram symbolizes solving a problem. After you understand, you know how to fix it, and you can see where this item is, or this is being fixed into the main component. Now, whenever you're trying to solve the problem, you must create a hypothesis. Now, what is a hypothesis? A hypothesis is a tentative solution to a problem. Meaning, anytime you brainstorm on a problem that you have, Maybe you have a problem of solving or completing a task. Then, by thinking about that problem, you are supposed to brainstorm on the options. Do I need, how will I get people to assist me to get to this, to complete this task? So in that case, then when you're brainstorming, then you come up with those tentative solutions. Do I need to get some people to work extra time? Will I need to get them in an ad hoc committee for us to achieve this? Now, those are the tentative options. That's what we call a hypothesis. That way, then it gives you a basis within which you can make a decision that can enable you to solve the problem. So the solving of the problem, then you look at those options and say, I think we can get people to ad hocly focus on this task, or we can delegate to 2 people, can delegate to somebody else for them to work on it, or we can collectively come together to deal with this issue. That's the essence of trying to solve a problem. Or you can listen to other people. What do they think about this problem? How do we go about it? How can we resolve it? And that's what will give it a lot of impetus for people to understand and put in their energy to solve that problem. So don't waste time evaluating every option. Let the group pick the 2 or 3 they most want to work with. Evaluate and select the best hypothesis. Then if the previous 3 steps have been completed, well, this is the easiest step. Drill down the action planning using the 4 steps. Leaders always have to make decisions in a fog of uncertainty for them to realize. But in practice, they need ways to make the decision process easier. Pitch the decision in a familiar framework as a low-risk continuation or extension of how things have been done before. Then on credibility, line up credible supporters to back your idea. Because without credible supporters, then your idea will be as good as dead. So whenever you make the decision, make sure that people have bought the idea. You've sensitized them enough, and they have conceptualized what is it that you want them to do. Then after that, then you need to do the anchoring. So the leader needs to get in an early set of terms of debate and correctly from the start. So once you have the supporters, you now communicate firmly to them for them to envision what sort of ideology are you propelling. That way, then they'll be able to actually fit into the whole process of decision making. Then lastly, I want us to look at negotiation process. Negotiation process. And on negotiation process, leaders cannot survive without negotiation. Why? Because as a leader, you need to influence people. And you're influencing people on ideas that, one, they don't know. You want to lead them to a particular change in work. You want to make them adopt a new process or a procedure. That requires negotiation. So as a leader, then, you must be well-versed on how to execute your communication skills so that people bind to your ideas, so that people support your idea, so that people direct their effort towards that idea that you want it to be attained. So for you to negotiate, then, you need to agree on the problem. What is the common opportunity or challenge we can, or we'll talk to each other with? That's the essence of understanding this problem. Then preview the benefits. So when you're negotiating, share with people what are the benefits of the new policy, what are the benefits of the new procedure, what will be of their interests, what is that you want to gain, so that as you negotiate, you don't want to have a lot of resistance. Because normally leaders can only succeed if they're able to communicate, they're able to articulate the issues, they're able to reach a consensus. They're able to make people to buy into their opinion or whatever they want to have achieved, so that now they'll be able to win. Then another one is suggest the idea. Let us not get locked into a single point solution that invites a yes or no. Create room for maneuver. Negotiations have always to take into consideration divergent views, and that's where now we talk about room for maneuver. Allow people to express their reservations, allow them to express their dissenting voices, allow those ones who support the idea also to support the idea. That way then we'll be able to ensure that we get the correct information with regard to the ideas. And that way people will be able to understand that the divergent views that they have is what informs the divergent opinions and how this would make them to be successful and also to reach consensus. Then it's also important that you explain how it works. Explain how that idea will work. Let people comprehend what this will mean to both of them. If they feel that they have their solutions, then let them be committed to it. If they don't feel that it's important, then of course they will not buy that idea. But what is important is that with the negotiations, then we ought to have clarity on each of the expectations. And more importantly, as a leader, then people have to understand what is the benefit, what is their role, how will they fit in. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then you'll end up thinking that you are creating a team, but this team will not be bound by the principles of the work that you're working on. So that's what summarizes what I had today with regards to the negotiation process. Then also in terms of pre-employment objections, work together to identify the potential pitfalls and how you'll overcome them. Keep your eyes on the prize. This is why you are working together. Then work out exactly what the next steps and responsibilities should be, and the one that you need to follow. So ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the end of my presentation. So I now welcome questions or any suggestions with regard to module 1 of basic leadership skills. Comments? Hello, comments?
Can I go first? Hello.
Hello, yes. This is...
It was Marilyn.
Oh, Marilyn, yes, Marilyn.
Yeah, it was a good presentation, but I found it a bit interesting when you spoke on delegation.
Yes.
And constant follow-up.
Yes.
It all depends on the team.
Yeah.
And sometimes you find you're in a position of leadership.
Yes.
You're away on leave.
Yeah.
You've actually done all the handing overs and debriefed.
Yes.
But you still find you have to work from home.
Yeah.
And irrespective of how hard you try to train to empower the team,
yeah,
you find you can't be hands off even if you're away. So I'm finding the delegation part, maybe I would have loved if you would have discussed it a little bit further.
Okay. Yeah, actually with delegation, usually, maybe just to take up, to respond a little bit, with delegation, a leader who delegates work, then they need to delegate work that, one, they don't have to constantly keep micromanaging or giving instructions at the same time. Because if you look at effective delegation, which not most of us usually do, because one, at times we delegate to the wrong people. Or when we are going on leave, we are delegating to somebody who maybe that's the first time they're being subjected to that kind of work. So in that case, then, as much as you're trying to explain to them, you know, usually learning takes some time for people to understand. So if I'm handing over this work within 2 days, chances are that this person, because of the mindset that even they were in at that moment of delegation, they may not have gotten everything. So they can only understand the intricacies of that delegation. Every time maybe they try something and it's not working, then they have to consult. But it means then there has never been a good mentorship throughout this period of time, so that also you find that maybe you're only delegating work at that given point, but they have not been mentored to be introduced to it, so that when it comes to delegation, it becomes easier. Then secondly, what also affects the delegation is people still want to keep the work that they're supposed to do, and therefore they will rarely put effort in the work that they have been delegated to. So that's also what may affect the whole process of delegation. But ideally, if you look at the principles, we expect that if you delegate work that is substantial to that person. Maybe you're overwhelming them maybe with a lot of work, and maybe they're only one person. And that's why in delegation, we say you can specifically pick on a particular project and delegate to Thomas, then the other one you delegate to maybe Nancy, like that. That way then, considering how efficient or how conversant they are with that kind of work, then they'll be able to execute it. But usually the challenge comes in when you're delegating a lot of work and this person also has their own work, so they'll concentrate on their work. So when it comes to your work, then it becomes tricky for them to have gotten the right information or the content to do that. I hope I've tried to answer your observation. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, so thank you, Marilyn. Thank you. Anybody else with a comment? Thank you, Lillian. Betty, Audrey, Thomas. Right, so I think, thank you very much for your participation and being there from the start up to the end. I wish you a very successful Saturday. Very successful Saturday. That's from Nancy. Thank you, Mary, Sabrina, Daniel. Thank you all.
Thank you too, Mwalimu.
Enjoy your weekend.
You too.
And happy Valentine's Day. Namona Valentine's ni kesho.
Thanks, James.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Thank you and see you next Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. So much.
Thank you and welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks, team, for organizing this.